if the Giants fall apart. No, it's ridiculous. The dumbest thing the New York Giants could do, BT, would be to think about firing Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen for that matter. The combination needs to say they need stability. I know what's happened so far was pathetic in week 1. I saw improvement from week 1 to week 2, but the loss in week 2, unacceptable. Can't have that happen the way that it did. But it shouldn't be automatically going to the next thing and already talking about firing Daboll or Schoen and starting a new regime. To me, that would be the biggest mistake the Giants could make.
I don't think it would be automatic if Daboll wasn't complicating this with his personality. See, that's what's accelerating this, Sal. And that's what I think people are missing. It's not just, well, the team's not that good, and they're not. They're not. And by the way, as a quick aside, you take a Mets manager, you take a Yankees manager, you take the Knicks, you take the Rangers. Maybe the Nets have a little more patience. Maybe the Isles have a little more patience. Maybe the Devils do. But the state, and no disrespect to those teams, but the staple teams in our city, you take a manager or a coach, if they come out with a good year 1, and then they basically fall apart, we'd be saying the same thing. Like the notion that this is unfair to Daboll is insane to me. They're not good.
To me, it's not even about being unfair to Daboll. It's about being smart or stupid as a franchise. They've done the same thing year after year after year. Hire a guy that they believe in, he fails, immediately they fire him. And this is an organization that used to have great stability and patience. And now it's every other year they're changing things. This is not the regime to be changing or thinking about changing in year 3. I really don't care how bad it's going to get. Now, I've seen enough in the first 2 years and even the first 2 weeks of the season to still believe in Daboll. Schoen, different story, and I think that has to play out a little bit longer. But I believe the Giants will right the ship and not be the worst team in the league. Even if they are, BT, I still think they have to ride it out. There is no answer. Stability can go a long way. Patience can go a long way. I know fans are frustrated and they're annoying or annoyed with the way that things have gone on here. That is annoying watching your team continue to lose it the way that they've been doing it. Daboll's the right guy. The Giants have to stick to their guns here and be patient despite the outside noise or despite some of the blowback because of that personality in the media. Daboll's the right guy. It would be a huge mistake if they decided to let him go at the end of the year.
Let me ask you this, Sal. So not necessarily the Commanders game, okay? But generally week to week, the Giants come out of the tunnel to play a game. Who are the 2 best players coming out of the tunnel?
Well, right now, Dexter Lawrence and Neighbors, probably.
Okay, and Andrew Thomas, right?
Oh, Thomas, yeah.
Andrew Thomas, not a Schoen guy. Dexter Lawrence, not a Schoen guy. Malik Neighbors, a Schoen guy, going to be a superstar. He nailed that. But it's a lot. It's Shane's roster. I mean, and obviously the Gettleman decision with Daniel Jones, but then it's exacerbated by the extension.
The biggest players are Gettleman's players, right?
Yeah,
Lawrence,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So it's Shane's roster, but the most impactful players.
Yep.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think that this is easy to dissect. I give you that, and I've said it a million times, and I'm going to keep saying it. I think that Brian Daboll 2.0 is going to be really good. I just don't know if it's going to be here. Like, the thing, let me ask you this.
But don't you believe in stability?
I do. I definitely do. No doubt. I don't believe in blind stability. I think you've got to look at each situation, and there are elements of this situation specific to the Giants where I can get behind what you're saying. That's why every time we talk about this, I'm a little conflicted because I think that Schoen could be the guy, but I'm not sure. I actually have more faith that Daboll could be a really good head coach, but I'm pretty sure that combustible personality is going to be a problem. It was last year.
To who?
Do you
think it's a problem to the players?
Coaches.
See, because the number one thing for me would be that personality, if you had that combustible personality and the players tuned out. They didn't want to hear it. He's riding them too hard, and they tune him out. That's the problem. What he says to Pat Leonard or Jordan Ronan, that doesn't, or whoever.
I don't care too much about that either. Okay. I agree
but
with you on that.
But I think that's where a lot of this is coming from.
Yes, but what's the origin of it? If you think of it, what's the origin of it? What was the worst? Maybe the worst, but also definitely the first. What was the first flare like? Wow. All right, man, he was really good in year 1, but there's some stuff going on here underneath the surface that we didn't necessarily know about. What was that first flare?
What, the wink stuff?
The wink stuff.
Yeah, okay.
And then, by the way, there was a reason why I don't think a lot of DCs that were highly coveted wanted to come here. I think that people, whether it's right, wrong, indifferent, partially true, whatever, that's why I use the word immaterial. Yeah. It's almost immaterial. Right now, specific to the way the Giants are perceived from the outside, it's a little it's a little rough around the edges there, and I'm okay with that. It doesn't have to be. Matter of fact, I hate this. Let me hold your hand. I love what the Titans coach did to Will Levis over there. What the bleep are you doing? Right. And then he went back to the podium yesterday. He said, he's a grown man. Yeah. Learn from it. Get over it. You know the school that I'm from, and I know the school that you're from. But I think that now Daboll, as much as he is, I think, an asset as a coach, he is a little bit problematic as a personality.
But that doesn't mean that they should consider firing. And again, I'm not talking about right now.
Obviously, no.
Yeah, I'm talking about
no chance.
Like the idea that we could even be talking about this yet again with this franchise is ridiculous to me, especially with a guy who proved that he can coach. Year one, he proved it, taking Daniel Jones to the postseason and winning a playoff game. That was on Brian Daboll. Also, when I look at this team, I look at a roster that is thin. So they're up against it to begin with in year three. That to me is more of an assessment on Joe Schoen than it is Brian Daboll. And it's a combination of the two. But point is, that should be the combination moving forward. Like, you want to question them, and we have, for sticking with Daniel Jones, drove me up a wall, still has. I hate that decision by them because it's not usual where you have a new GM and a new head coach with a holdover quarterback.
It's strange.
Especially one that has, failed multiple times in his now 6 year, whatever it may be. Point is, I just hope that for the Giants' sake, my biggest issue is this. The Giants themselves, within that organization, I think Paul Schwartz had a good article in the Post today talking about they can't let the outside noise creep in to the blood and the veins of that locker room, meaning the stuff that everybody's saying, whether it's on social media, whether it's on talk radio.
And that applies for everybody.
Right, but you don't want to let that negativity seep in that locker room because then you really have a problem. Well, the Giants organization needs to stand strong here. And despite the blowback of some reporters or some of the fans and talking about Daboll and the criticism, that would be the dumbest thing that they could do. I believe in Schoen, and certainly I believe in Brian Daboll. And at the very least, I believe in giving them a fair chance. Yeah. It's year three. Yeah. Let it play out here.
I really am. We'll get to these calls coming up. I love the stability notion. I truly do. The Giants got away from that. And that's one of the things that made the Giants the Giants. That inner stability and cohesion where they really, I don't want to say that they didn't incorporate what the fan base was saying. Even and it got very loud and it's always going to be loud with social media. But for a long time, the Giants, like the Yankees, we scream, about Cashman and this and that. Get rid of Hicks. They don't care. They just go about what they think is right, whether it is or not. They stick to their script, and you got to respect that. The Giants, I understand why you would say that. And as a general premise, Sal, I'm with you, and I'm hoping that this thing turns. The problem is, I think it's too much on your part. Blind faith.
Well, I don't think it's blind faith.
Or too much elevation of 1 year.
Fair. That's what
fair,
I mean.
But that's not blind faith. Right. I don't mean blind because there was
believing
blind
in him
faith
too quickly.
Would be no success. Right. No, he had success. Right. So I take that back. Not blind faith, but I think it's a little heightened on whether it's you or others who are all in on Daboll and Schoen. 1 year was fun. It wasn't amazing. It was good and it was fun. Year two was bad. Year three looks worse. There's more bad evidence than good.
But you could just feel it. Right, you feel the groundswell of here we go again.
I do.
It's starting to rise, and it's starting to get louder. And the more that they lose, the louder it's going to get, and they're going to try to force change. And I just think if the Giants cave to that, where again they have to go with what they believe in. They believed in Schoen and Daboll so much that they hired him. I believe that Daboll's the right guy to turn this thing around, and you just feel like right or wrong. That's just what I believe.
Sure.
But you feel like the groundswell is going to get to a point where it might impact the Giants' decision. And what I'm saying is ignore that. Stick to your guns, believing in Schoen and Daboll. And the thought of replacing those two guys at this particular point or at the end of the season, to me, would be ridiculous. BT and Sal on the Fan. Our friends at Town Fair Tire and a big mistake, I should say. Our friends at Town Fair Tire remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Zach is in Monroe, New Jersey. What's up, Zach?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Okay.
I just quickly want to talk about how the Giants need to let Schoen and Daboll, they gotta let it ride out. I mean, even if they have a really bad year, and I'm talking like 2 wins, and I'm a big Giants fan, I really don't see where the wins are going to come from. But they got to let it ride out because they never had their quarterback. I think if they could go get a quarterback, whether that's Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward, Carson Beck, whoever it is, you give them a new outlook with the offense because I think Jones is so limited. But I think they got to let it ride out. I've seen Shermer, Judge, those guys weren't it. I feel something different with Daboll. I feel like he can turn it around. I mean, just look at last year, what he did with Tommy DeVito. I don't think there's a lot of coaches that could have done that.
Yeah, and look, last year, and thank you for the call, Zach. You know, it really is not just 1 year, BT. It's certainly not blind faith, and I know that there could be a bit of an overreaction just to, well, he got to the playoffs with Daniel Jones. But it's not just that. Last year, even with the turmoil of, him and Wink or whatever, I saw a team that we watched and thought, oh, my God, this team might win 2-3 games. They righted the ship, and those are important things that you could say, well, it hurt them as far as the draft pick standings. Sure, but it was important to me to see stabilization within that season saying, all right, at least I saw some coaching take place here and winning some games where, again, I can believe in it. Now, it's only 2 weeks this year. I saw improvement from week 1 to week 2, but eventually you're going to have to start to see some results. You're going to have to win some games. You can't go, 1-16 or 0 or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So the season can play out, and I do believe that they are going to win some of these games that we look at right now saying unwinnable, but they actually have to go out there and do it. But there is something that I've seen and felt from Daboll that is unlike McAdoofus or Judge or Shermer. I just believe
I agree
in
with
Daboll.
that. This is what makes it tough. I agree with you. Let me just throw this at you, and I hate to paint it this way, but I didn't start the conversation, so
right.
Although I was early on it because of the personality.
Well, you were saying right. You're talking about the hot
over the
seat.
summer.
Yeah, right.
And never a football thing. But let's just say the year goes the way I think I and many anticipate that it will go. Let's say
under 5 wins.
I'm going to say 5-12. 5-12, 4-13. All right. There's some more contentious press conference. And again, I don't really care too much about that. I don't care if he undresses a reporter, provided it's it's not a woman or it's not degrading.
You don't mean literally, obviously.
No, I don't.
Right.
But I mean, you can light somebody up. I have no problem with that. But when it's not backed up with good performances, that's where it becomes untenable. So I'm not reacting to the stuff with Pat as much as I am the
and I don't think
play.
it was just Pat, but yeah, go ahead.
And Jordan Renaud and the other
whoever,
stuff. Whomever. But if they are 5-12-ish or 4-13-ish, and you got a few more of these flare-ups, and he is fired. This is an important question to me. Think he's hired next year by another team?
As a head coach,
yes.
Maybe he gets a year. Or something.
Maybe.
You've seen that. I do think he'd be hired again eventually. Yes,
as a head coach.
I do believe that.
He might be, and he probably would deserve to to have that
now,
chance.
who the hell knows with the way that they hire coaches now? Like
I know. But
guys get one shot. They're set up to fail. They fail, and then that's it. They can't get an opportunity.
It does help that he's offensive. He's not young, so maybe that he's not old, but that maybe he's not youngish like the model. So I don't know that he'd get hired. In 2 years. I don't think he get hired right away. Belichick's out there. Mike Vrabel's out there. Maybe the hot college coach is out there. So I hate that it's not even October 1 and we're talking about this. But understand, Brian Daboll created these problems himself. And I think to not acknowledge that is flat out wrong. And it's not the interactions with the press conference. It's the Wink stuff. It's the Kafka stuff. It's the name a coach whose GM says, man, something's so wrong here. I got to slip on headphones and see what's going on. Like, that's not normal on game day.
Yeah,
that's not common.
I look at Wink as more the problem last year. Now, we'll see if it's proven to be Wink or if Daboll has other issues as well. Look, can't deny that there were issues last year. I just don't know. To me, I believe that was more on Wink than on Daboll. Ray is in Babylon. What's up, Ray?
Hi. The question comes down to whether you trust Daboll and whether you trust Shane. And I'm a Jet fan. That's well known. But the bottom line is, look at the Jet circus in comparison for a blueprint on how not to behave. Stick with Jones until the rest of the season. Don't do the Mike White, Zach Wilson flip-flop where he's your guy, then he's not your guy, where Salah lost total trust of the fan base because he says one thing and he performs another way on the field. Daboll's reputation coming into the Giants was what? What is Daboll known for?
Oh, developing quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, quarterbacks.
Exactly.
Josh Allen. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
How's Josh Allen doing without him? It's fine.
Pardon?
How's Josh Allen doing without him?
Some of that comes down to. Go ahead, Ray.
I'm sorry, pardon me. I'm so sorry. The only point I want to make is the following.
Go ahead, Ray.
Next year, I think it's safe to say Jones is gone.
Yes.
Okay? We're gonna get a new quarterback, right?
Right.
Who is in the best position to develop a new quarterback next
See,
year.
Ray, that's an excellent point, and thank you for the call. And there's much more to the conversation. We'll get to that as the hour goes on here. We got a lot to get into today. We'll do the baseball. We'll go around the league a little bit. Last night,
those Metsies.
thrilling Monday Night Football game. But there is more to the conversation. And I'm not just saying that it would be stupid for the Giants to think about firing Daboll at the end of the year because I believe in Daboll for what he did in year one and kind of getting the team back on track in year two. There's more to it moving ahead as well. You want a guy who's going to be a quarterback developer and offensive. We haven't seen him do it here with a young quarterback yet. Outside of Jones, year one, he took Daniel Jones what he was, which was a mess, and limited the turnovers, made the most of what Jones can do well running the football, and got them to the postseason. Now, obviously, BT, they got to do it again. Last year, you could say, well, he was injured. Well, if Jones is healthy this year, nobody thinks that Daniel Jones is great. Obviously, the Giants themselves don't think that. Jones himself doesn't think that he's great, which is part of the problem. But they got to win some football games here. Can't be excuses. Can't just be, well, Dallas is better, Philadelphia is better, Cleveland is 7-point favorite. Got to win some football games here.
Vikings.
Yeah. I believe that he will. And then beyond that, because of what Daboll's done in his career as a coordinator, I also think he's the right guy for the job.
Yeah, I don't know that. Like, I'm just going to be very honest. I don't know that I've ever been quite so torn with like this type of a discussion where, and I hate to flip flop, but I'm not. You know where I stay. He's got to tighten up his person. He's got to soften what he presents. All right, but I see the other side. I truly do.
Let me ask you though.
I truly do.
Do you think?
Like, I don't think Robert Saleh's ever going to be a good coach.
Correct. Like
I really don't.
Yeah.
I think Brian Daboll will.
Okay. Do you think Daboll has to soften his approach or win? Because obviously I know he's got to win eventually.
It's a good question.
But my point is, if he wins, do you still think he's got to soften the approach?
No, we're more tolerant of that. There's a reason why Belichick or Saban down in Tuscaloosa, somebody was there, or any other big coach. Parcells would do whatever he wanted if he's president. Now Bill was fun, and he was a totally different presentation than Belichick. But when you win, you got the juice to. I don't want to say do whatever you want, but you can kind of, create the script and I guess follow it how you want. When you lose, I don't want to say that you have to conform to, like, you can't be a robot. You've got to be true to who you are, but it's amplified and it's made worse when you don't win and people now kind of view you as either unlikable or combustible or a little erratic emotionally, whatever. However certain people perceive Brian Daboll, if you don't win, it's over.
Can't have both. I agree with you there, but I think all he's got to do is one thing. Win. BT and Sal on the Fan Warrior calls on the other side, 888-808-1019. I want to get into something that you mentioned there before. Who's out there, which is part of the conversation here. There's a reason why there's talk about, well, if Daboll goes on, the Giants can go get this guy and that guy. I want to get into that conversation when we come back. BT and Sal on the Fan.